Washington, D.C., the Obama administration is weighing adding troops to the 57,000 already assigned to fighting in Afghanistan. Taxpayers for Common Sense estimates that the extended stay of an additional 20,000 troops it could cost $700 million per month. It's budget versus security as all spending is being closely watched. For more, I want to welcome in Fox News contributor Colonel Oliver North, who is traveling to Afghanistan and joins me on the phone right now. And also joining us this morning as well is Chuck Nash. He, of course, is Fox News military analyst and retired Navy captain, as well as Rich Galen. He is a Republican strategist. Good morning, gentlemen. Good to see all of you.
Good morning, Alexis.
Colonel North, let me start with you. Put this conversation in perspective for us right now. I know you're headed over to Afghanistan tomorrow. How crucial is the commitment in Afghanistan?
It is absolutely essential. I mean, if there's ever going to be a success against radical Islam, there cannot be a failure. It's very much along the lines of what the last administration used to say. They only have to be right once. We have to be right every time. This cannot be a failure, or it's a disaster for the United States, because Afghanistan will very quickly devolve into just what it was before 9/11. We cannot have that happen.
Chuck, what would be perceived as a failure and what would be perceived as success?
Whatever failure is and whatever success is, I think, in the minds of the American people will be driven by how the media portrays what's going on over there. The media is going to have a fairly large say in this. So if downturns are blown out of proportion, if we don't maintain proportionality in how we discuss things, then you can have the perception of failure, and very much like the Tet Offensive in Vietnam, where it was a failure for the North Vietnamese, not for the Americans. But Walter Cronkite came out and said, essentially, the war is lost. So I think in actual terms, it will be, do the people of Afghanistan feel more of an allegiance to their local leadership and maybe to the government in Kabul, or are they more intimidated by the Taliban and thus afraid to do that? And what will drive that in the end is, are the people confident that the United States is going to stay? Because if they are, that's what the surge did. First and foremost, what the surge did was convince the fence hangers, the fence sitters in Iraq that no, the Americans are serious, they're going to stay, and they cut their deals with the Americans. If we show weakness, that's it. They'll cut their deals with whoever they think is the strongest force.
Rich, it is clear that the president has said, this is my top priority. I'm not fighting a war in Iraq. I'm fighting a war in Afghanistan. And I'm going to fight a war on the Pakistani border. And I'm going to make it clear that I've got to enable the Afghani people to protect their own people so I can fight the Taliban. There's a report due out in a couple of weeks. What does that report need to say to get the American people behind it?
Well, first of all, Ali, I still have my armor that I bought to go to Iraq. For if you want to borrow it, stop by and you can pick it up. But the issue that both Colonel North and Chuck have pointed out are exactly the right thing. This is, again, it's another asymmetrical war. But in terms of what President Obama has said, he is correct. What Ali was just talking about. You cannot allow Afghanistan to return to the days when it was a safe haven for terrorists, when they had cover there, they had support there, they could move back and forth between Pakistan and Afghanistan and kind of gather their strength to come and attack us and other countries in the West.
Colonel North, going back to you for a second, I understand that the commander in Afghanistan, Stan McChrystal, is going to put together this report and deliver it over the next couple of weeks. What do you expect to see in that report, and how do they convince the American people who are not thrilled about this war to stay there and make it a priority?
Well, two things have to happen. Number one, General McChrystal's got to ask for the right number of troops and the mix of aircraft and logistics support that he needs to support them. And I believe he's going to do that. I've talked to a number of people that I'm going to be with here in just a few days who have contributed to that report. Number two, the American people have to be shown, very much along the lines of what Rich just said and what Captain Nash just said, that the American fighting man over there, the soldier, sailor, airman, guardsmen, and Marines that I'm going out there to cover for Fox News, are actually convincing the Afghan people that this is the right thing for them. That's going to require a sufficient number of troops to do it. We've not had that out there. Quite frankly, the NATO allies, with the exception of the Brits and the Canadians and the Aussies, who aren't even really in NATO, are the only ones who've been doing any real fighting out there. And there now has to be an approach to taking the fight to the Taliban and making sure that they can't use heroin as their principal lifeblood of support out there. I think that's coming. It's been a long time getting there.